Welcome back to another episode of the Burn Factory Podcast. What is up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Burn Factory Podcast. I'm your host, Priest, joined by my co-host, my brother, Mr. Phoenix. Say what's up to the camera.
What's up, y'all?
This is called the Burn Factory for a reason. I was literally caught on fire. 50% chance to live, but through that, started this podcast because I believe every person out there on this planet goes through a burn moment somewhere in their life.
You heard Priest say burn moment. So a burn moment is a super hard time in your life that you just got to fight to get through that truly makes you who you are today. And me and Priest believe that every single person go through burn moments every single day that truly make them who they are today. But Priest, what a guest we have today. We are super blessed to have him in the building. He has created one of the biggest sports agencies in the world called Iridium Sports. He manages over 115 UFC athletes with some of the likes of Brandon Moreno, Chito Vera, and Adrian Yanez, just to name a few. Not to mention, he has a ton of up-and-coming fighters that will blast on the scene soon. And he thrives on relationships, which I think that was the coolest of it all.
So please welcome Jason House.
Thanks for having me.
Welcome.
Thank you. Welcome to the Burn Factory. So you run 115 UFC fighters. That's insane. That's literally hurting my brain thinking about it.
How do you do it?
We have a real good team here at the agency. You know, I've been real lucky. I truly believe the culture is the most important thing of our group. And we've been blessed to hire the right people internally to take care of the people externally. Now, that's the thing I'm most proud of. It's been slow, right? I mean, this is a course of, 14, 15 years of meeting, Jeremy and then meeting Ed and meeting Jacob and kind of putting the pieces of the puzzle together. And I'm very blessed because I feel like they do a great job maintaining what we're about, and I think that's the key.
For sure. What's the key process to having a good culture and keeping everything peaceful?
I think the thing is you have to serve and give. I think that's the number one thing when you're an agent and you are serving an athlete. They're trusting you with their dream, and I feel like that's something that's probably one of the most precious things they could trust you with, right? Rather than a child or maybe a significant other. I mean, they're trusting you with what their life's work is about. So for us, it's just constantly keeping that in the forefront of our minds that, hey, like, I'm a servant. I'm here to serve and give, to do whatever I can to help that person get one step closer to their dream. And if I'm just one brick in that wall, then great. If I'm more than that, even better, but just be there for them. And every person in our agency, they're all selfless. And I love that about my guys. They'll do anything. Like, people think sometimes they think management's like this real glamorous, sexy job, but there's a lot of things that aren't. I've seen my guys jump in the sauna and cut weight with our guys. I've seen our guys spend all day driving all night long to make sure they get to their location on time. And there's many things in this job that we have to do, and it's just always just keeping the athlete first.
Yeah, I think relationships are one of the more key things that you need to have. My dad always says it's not ROI, it's ROR. It's return on relationships.
That's the truth.
And I think just building a relationship with your fighter, and you mention that all the time. I mean, you even let fighters stay at your house and live with you. Just building that relationship, I think, is so key, and it's been very successful for you.
Yeah, I love that. ROR.
ROR, yeah.
Steal that for
return
your
on relationships. But yeah, it's key. I feel like that's what you have to have, and that's what builds trust.
Yes.
I mean, we had Brandon Moreno on, and he talked about his 2018. It sucked, man, and he had to put full trust in you guys to give him the correct fight, not just fight to make money and make peanuts, but the fight for his career that really rejuvenated it.
That whole situation was so crazy because Brandon's was my wife's favorite fighter that we didn't represent. Oh. And originally, I didn't really like Brandon because he beat Louis Smolka. And at the time, had Smolka won, he would have got a title shot. So when I came home from that trip, I'd only been dating my wife for like 2 or 3 months. Her whole family was like, oh my God, we love Brandon. He's so amazing. And I'm like, forget that guy. So come full circle. And then Chito called me one day and he's like, hey man, I got a gift for Elisa. I was like, oh, that's nice of you. Like, what'd you get her? And he goes, Brandon Moreno's gonna call you like in 10 minutes. I've been talking to him about it. I think he needs a manager. And we actually signed him when he was cut. So in that 2018 lull, when all that stuff was happening, so it was one of those situations where it's like, okay, like we need to figure out a plan. And to be honest, guys, I was extremely nervous because Brandon's a part of a big market, right, in Mexico, and if this doesn't go well, it's probably going to hurt my name in that community. And there was the UFC was cutting the division, remember? Bellator doesn't have 25s. It was really like Risen, maybe ONE FC. So it was like the options were just...
PFL wasn't even really a thing then.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. There really wasn't. So it's like you didn't want to overpromise him, but at the same time, you're like, oh man, it's kind of a doom and gloom. And
Yeah.
But to his credit, and he doesn't bring this up much, and I'm surprised. Like I remember Combate Global offered us a decent deal, not great, but decent, and he passed on it.
Yeah, he mentioned that.
And I was like surprised, and I was like, okay, I guess we're gonna go this LFA route. We're gonna take this title shot, and we're gonna try and get back in the UFC.
Yeah,
and then he did.
He did.
Yes,
got back in.
Champion.
And you know what's crazy? He won that fight. And Mick had been kind of flirting with it. He's like, man, I might do like this ninja tournament, like 16 flyweights, just try one more time to see if we can get this division together. And I was like, well, man, Mick, if you do, like, Brandon's fighting for the flyweight title against this Cuban wrestler, really stud guy. You know, if we do it, maybe you can consider us. He goes, yeah, let me know. So Brandon had won. I had texted Mick, and Mick's like, hey, we're going to do this. And so he called me the next day while Brandon was at Disneyland. And I told Brandon at Disneyland, I was like, hey, man, you're back in the UFC. And
that's cool.
That was pretty cool, you know, like just to come full circle like that.
Yeah, talk about when he won his championship for the first time. What moment was that? I mean, that was your first UFC champion.
Yeah.
Talk us through that moment a little bit.
It was just surreal because you just think about that moment for so many years. For so many years, like, man, if I could just build a champion, if I could just take a kid from zero to hero and be along the way. And I remember thinking like that fight week, everything was going so good. It was like, oh my God, like this is going to happen. Like we're going to do this. And even 2 weeks before I had the video saved, Brandon sent me a video. He was commentating. He said, brother, I'm ready. Like I got this. And I remember thinking like, dude, we're going to win this. We're really going to pull this off. And then that night he was lights out, right? Like
he was
the minute that, I mean, that like the fight seemed like 2 hours to me, but it was like 12 minutes or whatever the heck it was, you know? But it was amazing, and it just was special just because the group that we had there, you know what I mean? You had my wife there and all of our friends and family. It was super cool, you know, to have everyone there to kind of experience that.
Did you guys even sleep that night?
No.
I couldn't even sleep that night. I'll never forget. We were actually in our living room watching the fights, and me and my dad and Phoenix were like, dude, Moreno's got this in the bag whenever he's walking out. And most beautiful performance I've seen, and just absolutely put a smack down on Figgy.
I was super nervous that week. All week long, my wife's like, hey, it's going to be fine. And I'm like, it's funny. During the week, my wife's very confident, and I'm the nervous one. On fight night, maybe because I get to see him backstage, I saw him warm up. I was like, he was lights out. You should have seen him back there. He was, I was like, oh, man, I got this. We're locked. I come out there, and Brandon's wife and my wife were like,
so nervous.
And I remember thinking like, nah, man, he's good. But Brandon's like, he's crazy back there. When he fought Figgy for the first time, he was singing Somewhere Over the Rainbow. And I'm like, Brandon, what the heck are you singing Somewhere Over the Rainbow for? And he goes, man, have you ever seen 50 First Dates? Man, I love that movie. I love Adam Sandler. And I'm like,
he's so calm.
He's like, that's on your mind right now? Like, I was like dry heaving back there. I'm not gonna lie. I was nervous as hell. I was like, oh man, Figueiredo's scary, you know, he's all buff and ripped, and I was like, oh, he's knocking everyone out, you know. Brandon's just like,
That's so funny. Like, you think he would just be focusing on the fight, like, man, I gotta do this, I gotta do this. And he's like singing. I think he even mentioned to us he was singing like his daughter's favorite song,
Baby Shark,
Baby Shark
in the Brazil fight.
Yeah,
he fought Figgy for the fourth time.
It's crazy, but he's just so mentally in it. Like,
it's his best asset. It really is. Like, his ability to perform on fight night is something truly I've never seen. Like, it's just
How busy is it for as your company in the sports agency? How busy is it during a fight week?
Like, say like a title fight.
Say it's a title fight.
It's a nonstop. Like, I remember after the Brazil fight, we didn't get back to the hotel till like 7 a.m.
Wow.
Like, our victory was just like, we went to the breakfast buffet. Brandon got to eat whatever he want, and then like I literally went back to the hotel. My wife went, and like just catched up on it because you're so like. You know, and that fourth one was a lot of pressure because had we lost, they probably would have said that night in Phoenix was luck, right? Like, you kind of have to beat your demon twice if you really want to show people, you know. But yeah, it varies. Every fight week has its variables. I think what a good agent has to be is just be proactively ready to do whatever it takes, right? You may be in a foreign country and you're at a hotel that doesn't have a bathtub, and your guy's superstitious. He has to go wait in the bathtub. Like, you got to go find a hotel with a bathtub, you know, or maybe they want a certain drink or a certain food, or maybe their grandma stuck at the airport. Like, you just have to be on call. Like, that's why I get up really early in the morning, so I can be proactive in like what I need to do, like send my emails out, text certain people, read my book, work out, you know, do things I need to do for myself. And then the rest of the day, you're just kind of reacting to what everyone else needs, right? Like, you're really just kind of sitting on deck, like,
what's going to come up next?
Yeah. And I think our team does such a good job. Like Jacob, you know, he's our marketing director. Like, he's just money. Like, I could just see him always watching and okay, he needs this, and he goes, you know. And I think that's what really helps, that you're able to have a contributing factor to Fight Week. Because like when I was growing up, my dad used to always say, like, he could always tell when I was gonna have a good baseball game or a bad game. And I thought, man, he's full of crap. He doesn't know what he's talking about. But I'm gonna tell you right now, in Fight Week, I could literally pick it. I could literally tell you when we're off, when we're on. And I think the Fight Week energy really has a lot to do with it. So I really just try to bring a lot of positivity and try to, because it's not the, I'm sure you guys know this, but it's not like people think of when an adversity comes in a fight week, it's gonna be something big. It's not. It's something stupid, right? Like the hotel has no hot water, or you know, it's something like, it's like, okay, we can fix this. Relax. Like, don't get stressed. You know, like, we got this. We'll make the adjustments, whatever it takes. You know what I mean? It makes for a better story down the road.
Yeah. You're actually kind of leading us into B for beginning. So on this podcast, we use the acronym BURN. So each letter is a different time in your life. So B stands for beginning.
Okay.
You mentioned your childhood. So kind of take us back to your childhood growing up.
Yeah.
What was that like? Were there any burn moments that you had to fight through to put you where you are today?
Yeah, you know, growing up, I had a real good childhood. It was kind of crazy. My dad ended up marrying my best friend's mom. They met through us. They were both divorced. So my best friend became my stepbrother. So growing up, I always had him, and he was the better athlete. He was amazing, great big brother, but he would beat me 10 out of 10 times in whatever we were doing. Yeah. And then my parents decided, hey, like, we want to have foster children. They wanted to serve and give back to others. And so my family raised over 25 foster kids all through growing up. And to be honest, like, I didn't know, like, then it was like, man, I got so many guys to play baseball with or basketball. It was a cool, like, you're bringing all these different walks of life. Yeah. But now I look back on that and, like, it was a huge learning for me, because you learn how to handle and understand people from different walks of life, right? Like Bobby Green, who fights tonight, like, he grew up in 9 different foster homes in 9 years. Like, he didn't spend the same birthday in the same home for 9 straight years.
Wow.
Like, and he had a hard time trusting people. So when it was like, hey man, you don't understand, I'm like, actually, I might understand, you know, like, I can relate to why you feel this way. And, you know, Bob's one of my best friends in this business. But so growing up, I had a big family. I played 3 sports in high school, did football, wrestling, and baseball. Got a scholarship, played baseball at Laverne for 4 years, had some of the best years of my life there. And then found myself into law school. It was kind of a crazy story. I took a public speaking course. The guy was like, hey man, you're really good. You should do debate. And I'm like, bro, I'm just here to play baseball. Like, I was that guy, okay? I was 19. I'm just here to play baseball. And he's like, listen, how about you just meet up with us on Friday? We get pizza and beer. After, you know, you can play your first game on Friday. You can come with us for like an hour. Just try it. And I didn't know Laverne's debate team was like really good, like internationally known. I had no idea. And he kind of got me into debating, and I started thinking like, man, this may be a calling. So that led me into law school. And then in law school, I just kind of missed the camaraderie of being a part of a team. So I walked into Team Oyama in Irvine, California, signed up to start training MMA. And that's kind of my introduction to the sport, right? And back then, there really wasn't agents per se. So I was just kind of like, hey, look at my contract. Like, okay, cool. You know what I mean? You started doing stuff, and it kind of just picked up some steam. Yeah,
I feel like at that time, the only real agent was Ken Pavia, which you actually worked under. So talk about that time a little bit. What kind of mentor was he for you?
So Ken came to our school, and he spoke, and I must have called him like 7 straight days. I was like, dude, listen, I'll take out your trash. I'll drive you around town. I'll get your laundry, your cleaners, whatever. Just let me get in on this. Because I was a nut at that time. I was watching MMA as much as humanly possible. I was that guy listening to the Sure Dog podcast back then.
Sure.
And so he said, yeah. And so actually Ken was great, because he let me in, like, I think within 1 week. I was at the UFC when Rashad Evans fought Forrest Griffin, when Rampage fought Wanderlei Silva. Like, he put me right in front and center. I was there with clients, right in, not knowing what I was doing. And I really would just spend many nights at his house, because I lived about an hour from my law school, and he lived right next to my law school. So I would just spend nights there listening to him on the phone with the matchmakers, listening to him with the clients, kind of seeing how he did things. And So I did take away a lot of good. You know, there were some bad things there. You know what I mean? I think that's why inevitably he got banned by the UFC.
Yeah.
But I try to focus on the positive, that he did give me a chance when no one did, right? And he really educated me on the business. And so I really just loved it. Like I knew like I remember like the first UFC fight, I was like, this is where I need to be. Like, this is everything. Like I could do this for the rest of my life. So I did that, and then I finished law school. I saw Ken was kind of, I didn't really, some of the things he was doing, didn't line up my moral compass. So I just went on my own, and I talked to my dad, and he was just like, look, give it 2 years. If it doesn't work out, that law firm job's still going to be there. So I just started my own company, and I actually worked as a waiter at Outback for the first 2 years of the company as an attorney. I'd go like 9 to 5 agent, 6 to 10 server, and yeah, that's what.
Then it started Iridium, right?
Yeah, that's when I started.
Where'd you even get the name Iridium from?
So like my dad woke me up one night. He was pretty excited about me starting this business, and he was like, "You should call it Iridium. Like it's better than platinum. It doesn't bend or break. It's strong and." You know, you should do this. And I was like, yeah, Dad, it's like 2 a.m, man. Because my dad used to work the graveyard shift as a cop. So he always he's a night owl. And I'm like, yeah, Dad, that's great. Like, we'll talk about this in the morning, man. I'm tired. Yeah. And so we just ran with it, you know. And it was really, really cool because there's no expectations at that point in your life, right? Like, you're 24 out of law school, you know, you're just having fun with it, seeing where it goes, you know. And it was definitely some of the best times of my life.
From the start, was it always UFC? I know you went to the NFL a little bit and then came back.
Yeah.
Was that where your heart was?
Yeah. Like I remember like watching my first UFC fight, thinking like, what is this? I'd grown up wrestling, and I was like, what is this? I need to like do this like now, you know? It was love at first sight.
Yeah.
What was it like running your first ever client in the UFC?
Oh man, it was like the greatest week of my life.
And probably the most stressful week of your life at the same time.
Like, you know, it's funny you say that because you're right. Because like that week, I think I was floating all through the whole experience, and I never forget, The Fighter had just come out with Mark Wahlberg, and so we were watching that movie like every day in the hotel room, and it was me and Ruben, and Ruben's like such a good friend of mine and dear friend to my heart. We had no idea what we were doing. Like, no idea, okay? Like, we were acting like we knew what we were doing, but we were scared to death inside. We were having fun. It was in Kentucky. We went to the Muhammad Ali Museum, and we would just kill time and watch all of his fights there because they have this little theater. You can choose what fights you want to watch. And we were just killing time. And then it wasn't until, like, the night of the fight I started realizing, like, oh, crap. Like, if Ruben doesn't do well, like, this is, like, your first guy is kind of like your calling card, right? If he goes out there and he does well, the UFC's gonna be like, hey, who else do you have? And if he doesn't, they're gonna go, you said this guy was good and he doesn't. So like the first time I was kind of promoting, like, hey, this guy's ready, you know? And I was so nervous, like I couldn't even breathe when he was walking out. I was like, oh, please God, let this go well, you know? Like, and dude, he fought so amazing that night. He lost a split decision. I mean, he fought his heart out, and it just opened the doors for me.
So right after, they just called you, like, who else do you have?
Yes, it was like, who do you have? Like, I got Bobby Green. Oh, I love Bobby Green. I got this guy and that guy. And it was like, that was the moment, or everything just clicked. You know what I mean? It clicked over. And it was crazy too, because Ruben's last fight was August of 2010. And so for like every Monday from then till February, I would email Sean this highlight video that we had made. It was a pretty cool highlight video. I'm gonna send it to you guys.
Okay, like, yeah, I'll check it out.
I was pretty proud of it. I was like, we made this highlight video, and I was like, man, this video is good, man. Like it's a banger. And Sean never responded once, not one time. And I'm like, God, what I gotta do to get this guy to respond? And one Monday he hit me up and he was like, hey, what's Ruben Duran doing? And like a dork, I was like, waiting for your call, sir. And I responded right away. You know, I emailed like super fast and I sent it. And then like I didn't hear back from for like 4 hours. Typical Sean, right? Like 4 or 5 hours, he kept me on red. And I was like, so like, like, what was that? I was like a tease. And then he finally hit me up. He's like, hey, does he want to fight Takei Mizugaki in 2 weeks? And we're like, yes, absolutely. Like, we're in. Let's do this.
Wow, 2 weeks though. That's quick.
Yeah.
Is that how, like, short term, or like, what would you call it? Like a
short notice?
Yeah, short notice fight. Is that how it is? It's just like, hey, they're calling you like, yo, 2 weeks. Like, there's no kind of like lead up to it.
No, it's a run and gun. Like, it's a run and gun. So like, I felt like me and Ruben, we didn't have time to think, right? We're doing all these things. Everything's happening so fast. And like, then you said, like, when the fight week finally came, that's when I think the nerves started like, oh man, like, oh,
what's going to happen.
Yeah, you don't know, and you know what it is? It's always like the first 30 seconds. You're kind of thinking like, man, I hope he doesn't get knocked out in the first punch. Something crazy happen, and once it kind of find your rhythm and everything's, you're like, okay, we're good. This is just another fight. It's just another human being. That's all this is, just in a bigger stage. That's the only change.
For sure. Where did you even meet like Bobby Green and Adrian Yanez, and like how'd you even get like into them?
So like my very first client was LaRon Wilson, and LaRon played football in college with my strength and conditioning coach in college. And my strength and conditioning coach in college is still like one of my best friends to this day. We still talk all the time. And I said, hey man, I'm gonna go on my own. He's like, that's great. He's like, do you have any clients? I'm like, no, I'm just gonna go on my own, and we're gonna give this a
leap
whirl.
of faith.
And he's like, well, hey man, my college roommate, he fights, he's a heavyweight, like you should talk to him. And so I talked to him, and God bless LaRon Wilson for like, why would he like want to, like, I think he was in his 30s at that point. Like, why would you want to give a 24-year-old kid a shot? Like, but he did. And I took really good care of him. And I think he's the one that Ruben worked at the LA Fitness that he was at. And he's like, you should talk to Ruben. He's real good looking kid. He's a complete package. And met Ruben. And then Ruben was training with Bobby. And then I met Bobby. And Bobby was kind of a slow starter at first. He was kind of like, I don't know about you. You're not trusting. And I just kind of wore him down eventually.
And then all of a sudden it was like dominoes. And then one thing came to another. And then it came to another. And came to another. And started opening up more doors. And wow, what a crazy beginning to your life. Going from baseball to law school and to now running a sports agency company. But now it's time to go to you and Burn. Unfortunate. And I believe there's so many unfortunate moments out there that people go through that get them to where they're at today. Yeah. And I actually like to share a little unfortunate experience myself. So it's the last week of school. He's already out of summer, and I was like, man, I just want to be out of summer because I'm not a school person by all means. So I'm like, man, I just want to go out to the golf course because I started getting into golf, and I was about ready to play my first golf tournament. We actually moved into a brand new house on the golf course.
Nice.
So I go to school, science class comes, walk into the classroom, teacher's like, we're going to be doing a science experiment that involves fire. And I'm like, oh, fire, like who doesn't love fire as a 13-year-old kid? So she takes us all outside, and we're sitting like 6 feet away from the fire in a semicircle, and literally the next thing it was like a bomb went off. And it was so crazy to me because I had this, I don't really remember, obviously in a traumatic experience, you don't remember anything before. And I had the craziest out-of-body experience where I was literally in the sky looking down, and I saw me get burned. And it sounded like a bunch of kids at a swimming pool screaming like, oh my gosh, like all this stuff. And literally kids were screaming, he's on fire, he's on fire. And I didn't think it was me. I thought it was someone else, but deep down inside, I knew it was me. And so I sprint to the nurse's office, I guess, and they call the ambulance, paramedics, and they're coming, and my face started getting super swollen. I'll pull up.
Did you see like the explosion happening, or like you were you kind of like it just caught you completely
off guard? Wow. So I pull up the photo actually.
Yeah, it was tough. I remember like at that time I was just on the golf course, and
oh my gosh. Yeah, so that was literally right after it happened when I first got to the ambulance or to the hospital.
The explosion happens. You're having this out of body experience. Like, so you just start running to the nurse's office.
Yeah. So I'm right when it happens, my ears are ringing so much, and I can smell like the burning sensation of my hair, and still to this day, even when I take a shower, I can still get the whiff of like smoke, and obviously it reminds me of it, and it's not very fun. But yeah, it's so crazy because I really thought I was going to die. And thank gosh for my beautiful family.
So you were on the golf course when
so
you
I
got
was
this phone
so
call?
I was on the golf course, and it's just a normal day. I was playing golf with my friends, like you said, second day summer, we're having fun, and I'm like, oh, I got a missed call from my dad. Maybe it's just where am I
probably
at?
not
When am I
thinking
gonna be
anything.
done?
Yeah.
Whatever. So I hit my shot. I'm driving up in the car, and I call him back. I'm like, hey, what's up? He's like, yeah, so your brother got burned. And I was like, oh, okay. Like maybe it's a little hot glue gun. They were gluing
Like on the
something,
stove or something, or
his finger. And he was like, no, it's his face. It's bad. We're on our way to ICU right now. He's in the ambulance. And I remember I literally I hung up the phone. I started bawling my eyes out, and I grabbed a club and I turned and aimed at the woods, and I hit the ball as hard as I could. And it's actually funny because that was the best shot I hit all day was that shot. And it was so hard. And then after that, I even had to do like a 2-hour driving lesson. So that entire time I'm like, is he okay? Like, is he gonna look the same? Is he gonna be disformed? Because when you think about people getting burned, especially their face, their lips are maybe over here, like it could be super long-term bad. And so I go down with my grandpa to the hospital, and I'll never forget seeing him, that picture. He was just laying down in his bed asleep, and I was like, what? Like,
How long
why?
were you in the hospital for?
For a week. Wow. And I had 7 surgeries. And
In that week?
in that week.
So it was just constant.
Constant go, go, go.
Do you remember that time period well, or are you kind of in and out, right? I'm sure they're sedating you for these procedures and stuff.
They sedated me for sure. Don't really remember, obviously, like the whole week, but the swelling around my neck started getting super bad, and they were worried that it was gonna cut off like my breathing. And so I needed something to lift me up, because I was just in this horrible like state of mind, like, oh my gosh, like this is it. So I actually had my dad go get my putter, and I'd put 3 balls into a glass jar, and slowly but surely it started putting a smile on my face. Oh, man. And in that moment, I called that my burn moment. And now I have this podcast, and I actually developed a foundation called the Priest James Foundation, and I install putting greens at hospitals.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yes.
Because it brought that joy to you in that
joy,
moment.
and I love seeing people smile, and that were in the same shoes as me, getting burned, or and they just need something out there to go bring them joy. And so
heck yeah, no, that's awesome.
Build putting greens.
We really feel like unfortunate moments build you to who you are today, and it really is who you are. And so for that unfortunate experience, it affected me a lot to see, like, man, you just got to live every day like it's your last. It can be taken so quick. Like, it's just a normal day, golfing, whatever, but that could be taken in an instant. Yeah. So really living your day like it's your last is really what we took away from it. But for you and your story, were there any unfortunate moments that you had to fight to get through to be as successful as you are with your business, or even outside of your business in your personal life, that you just had to fight through?
Professionally, I would have to say it was February of 2011. That was right before Ruben got signed, because at that point I graduated law school in May of 2009. So you're kind of breaching in on that 2-year marker, still living at home, driving a Hyundai with 260,000 miles on it. I haven't really seen anything. It's hard. All your friends from law school are doing very well, right? They're driving nice cars. They got condos in Newport Beach. They're doing their thing. And I'm kind of like, man, maybe I made the wrong call here. Am I behind the 8 ball? And that month was really hard for me, because I had to borrow $1,200 from my dad to pay the bills that month. And that was a real breaking point for me. And I remember telling my girlfriend at the time, like, man, I don't even have money for Valentine's Day. Like, I'm sorry. Like, I'm broke. Like, this is not going well. And that was like February 8th or 9th. And then like the 11th, Sean had contacted me about Ruben. And I'll never forget how weird it was because the commission I got off Ruben's fight was $1,200. So that paid the debt back. And he got a bonus for fighting so well. And the commission from the bonus like kept me afloat. And it just seemed like at that moment, like I was about to, it's always darkest before dawn. It's easy for me to say that now. Yeah. In that moment, you're like, dude, like, I remember being at church and I was like, God, what am I doing, man? Like, you know, this isn't the way. Like, you know, I'll go do something else. Like, this is embarrassing. You know, all my friends are starting lives, they're having wives and kids, and I'm still like on first base. You know what I mean? Like, we're not getting off. And so it really just took off, and I'm grateful for that. Personally, I think one of the hardest times in my life was 2013. You know, I had a called off engagement, and then 3 months, that was 2 days before the wedding, and then 3 months later, one of my best friends and clients, Shane Darazaro, passed away. And he was only 30 years old. And that, it was just like, man. So you kind of have that 2011 where everything's going like this, and then 2013 come, you're just like, man, can I just get
can I get a break?
Can I get a break here? And, you know, rush into the hospital that day. It just, man, it crippled me. Like, I remember being at my friend's Adam's house, not even be able to get out of bed for 2 or 3 days. Like, just like, so like, oh my gosh. And, you know, it really changed my perspective in life. Much like you said, you start realizing how much of a gift this is. Like, one of my self-talks for this year was to just chin up and be more present, you know, because everything's happening so fast. You're always on the go. You're always, and it's like, man, I'm gonna be 40 soon. You know, I need to really enjoy this. You know, especially like Brandon's success, right? Like, it's all, everything's just, you know, the endorsements are coming, the parent, and everything's happening, and it's like, man, maybe I need to slow down and enjoy all this, because there were those times. Like, if you would have told 24-year-old Jason he's here now, dude, he would have gone streaking down the street, right? He would have been jumping up and down, like, dude, seriously, like, this is huge, you know. So. You know, it always works out. It always does in the long haul, and I truly believe that. You know?
And definitely through those toughest times, it makes you stronger as a person, physically and mentally. And so I feel like we need those bad things to help us become a better person and to live more, like how he said, every day it's your last.
Yes.
Yeah, live by that motto every day.
It's tough that pain is sometimes the best teacher, and that's the hard part of life. You know, you don't. You're thankful for the lesson, but you're not looking forward to the next one.
Exactly. Exactly.
Literally.
So you talk about that dark time. Was there like one thing that kind of brought you out of it? Like for Priest, it was putting and kind of taking your mind away to a different place. But was there something that you did to get over that burn moment?
I remember being at Shane's funeral and just thinking, like, look, if I really want to honor Shane, I need to turn the tide right now. You know, like, I have my health. I have my life, you know what I mean? Like, I need to just honor him. And I remember, like, all of 2014, I remember just thinking, like, I'm just going to honor Shane. I'm just going to give him everything I do. And I felt like the minute I changed my attitude, like, the minute I changed the climate internally, I feel like externally things got better for me, right? Like, Russell Doan got signed to the UFC, then Louis Smolka, then Kreese, and everything just started picking up again. And you're seeing all the joy you're bringing in people's lives. And you remember, okay, this is why I'm doing this. And this is where it's at, because the sport is tough emotionally from a business side. So when you're having personal stuff going on, it's even harder, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys are old enough. Have you ever seen the movie Bull Durham? It's a baseball movie.
I think so.
Kevin Costner's in it, and there's a part where, like, he gets dropped to single A, and he walks into the manager's office, and he's like, you know, F this effing game. F it. I'm done. I quit. I'm not doing single A. He takes 2 steps, slams the door. He's cussing himself out. He opens the door and he goes, what time's batting practice tomorrow? And the guy goes, 9 a.m. And he goes, okay, I'll see you there. Yeah. And I feel like that's what that sport is sometimes, right? Like, you're like, some weekends you're just like, dude, I'm over this. Like, I want this sport's so heartbreaking. So when you have personal stuff on top of the professional, it can really climb on you sometimes, you know?
Especially during that time, because you didn't have enough time to just like feel like down and stuff, because you had so many other fighters that you had to help build them up too, because they're probably going through stuff as well, and you're kind of like that rock for them.
Yep.
So was that difficult?
It really was. I remember, I think it was like a week later, 2 weeks. I think Bobby fought in Sacramento against Pat Healy. And I remember just thinking, I have to get it together. Like, Jay, you got to get it together. And I think I was crying the whole drive up there, right? Ruben was with me, and I'm just trying to keep it together, you know? And you just have to understand, like, man, like these guys are counting on you. Shane would want you to be there for them. You know what I mean? You kind of have to stop the bleeding somewhere, right? At some point, the bleeding has to stop in this. And yeah, I mean, it just started picking back up, and you know, I just kept that in my head. I'm just going to honor Shane in everything I do here.
Do you think if Shane doesn't die, your life is totally different?
Yes. That like that was easily the hardest in my life. Like, I was questioning everything, my faith. I was questioning it all. I was just like, dude, what the heck?
Yeah. It's so hard. Like, even for us, like, we're very faith-based. We went to Christian schools growing up and stuff, and it's like, God, like, why him? He's 12 years old. Like, there's so many bad people out there. Like, as bad as it to say, like, why didn't it happen to them? Like, he's so young and pure, and it's just like, God had bigger plans for us. If that didn't happen, we're not here sitting talking to you and building our relationship with you and doing all these cool things and inspiring people out there. Because at the end of the day, that's all we want to do is just help inspire people that, like, in your darkest times, like, you can get out of it. Yeah. But you have to shift your mindset to get out of it.
No, it's the truth. The mind is everything. The mind is truly everything. And when I realized my internal dialogue was not healthy, and you change it at that moment, I really feel like everything changed. I started changing that internal dialogue instead of thinking like, dude, my life sucks. What's going on? Like, this is horrible. Yeah. You know, it's crazy that putting did that for you. Like, I think that's so awesome, that just that little joy, right? And it makes you think it's the little things in life, right? It's the little things in life that could really bring you joy. And I think in our hustle and bustle, you need those little things to kind of
bring you back.
Yes. You know, to kind of, you know, and, I going back to Moreno, I feel like he's very good at that. You know, he's very good at just like, I don't know if you guys ever watch the show Entourage, like my favorite show. I watch it once a year. And Vinny, the main character, he always goes, hey, what's the worst case? We go back to Queens of Mom. You know what I mean? Like, he's in LA, you know? I always feel like Brandon was always like that. Like, oh, what's the worst case? We go back to Tijuana, start making more piñatas, whatever the hell. You know what I mean? Like, he just never really like, hey.
I'm like, for sure.
I feel like he doesn't put a lot of self-pressure on him.
None.
Like, at all. He's like, if I lose, I lose. Like, he was the better man. Like, at the end of the day, I'm gonna go home. My wife's gonna still love me. My kids are still gonna love me, and everything's gonna be all right.
He's a consummate professional. Like, I learned so much from him at times. Like, when he loses, like, I'm a sore loser. Like, my wife hates to be around when I lose. Like, I go rearrange a hotel room, it's bad. And like, Brandon's just so good, you know? Like, in every moment where life tests him, I just feel like he always passed with flying colors. Like, like when he lost to Figgy in Anaheim and I was devastated, he was just like, man, brother, we're still doing really good, man. We're still winning in life, you know? And you're like, I'm glad you can say that, man. You know,
well, like, let's not hide away. I think he won, though, man. We were actually there. We were in Anaheim.
I agreed. It was definitely, I thought we had won, you know, but yeah, everything happened. Like you said, everything happens for a reason, led to that fourth one. And, you know, it all worked out. It always does.
And the fourth fight was even better than the second fight when they fought.
It was amazing.
Oh, man. What was that like being in Brazil with him?
So, like, we go down there for, like, the media tour, and everyone's loving Brandon. And I thought, you know what? They're gonna resonate with us more because figure he's kind of taking this whole kind of cocky role that he was doing, and Brandon's this humble guy. Like, the people of Brazil, they're gonna dig us. Yeah. And I remember my professor in jiu-jitsu back home, Gio, he's like, Jason, they're not. They're loyal to Brazilians. Like, they're gonna boo you guys. And I'm like, nah, I really think Brandon's gonna get a man. Usually when his song comes on, the place just goes bonkers. I mean, you were there in Anaheim when he walked out. It was one of the best moments of my life. Like, I was like, oh my gosh, he walked out. They were booing so damn.
And then they chant that, like, you will die. I don't even know what it's called.
It was like me, Lisa, and like four of us just cheering. The only one's like, you can do it, Brandon.
Oh my gosh. And then after he wins, they're throwing beers and food at him, running out.
No, he's something else. I always tell people this story. When he won the belt against Kai, it was my birthday. He went backstage. The first thing he did was give me the belt and sing happy birthday. And in my mind, I'm like, to be that present and selfless in a moment where you could have been the most machismo, right? The most you could have been like, man, it's my moment. I won this fight. Like, he gave it, you know what I mean? I just like, I always think, dude, you're the best human, bro. Like, dude, like, you're something else, man.
He's awesome.
Yeah, it's a testament to you guys' relationship, though.
Yeah.
If you don't have that strong relationship, maybe he does not even.
But again, it goes back to adversity, though, right? I feel like, are we as close if we didn't go through all that hell together? You know what I mean? Like, I think sometimes out of that storm, there's deeper roots in the relationships in your life. And I think that's the good part of some of the adversity in life, is that you have that tight bond.
This portion of the Burn Factory podcast is sponsored by Phoenix Salon Suites. Please visit Phoenix Salon Suites at PHENIX Salons SALON Suites SUITES.com to find one near you. Let's move on to our next letter. R, it stands for ridiculous. So kind of a little light, a little funny. All these fighters, all these talking to the UFC, all these fans. Like, was there a ridiculous burn moment that sticks out to you? That, I don't know, maybe a fighter requested some weird thing? Or
my very first fight I ever booked was in Cortez, Colorado. I had left Ken, and I'm at my little brother's baseball game, his little league game, and I'm talking like, hey, Dad, I just signed LeBron. I just need to find him a fight. I kid you not. The guy turns around and goes, you want to book a fight for your heavyweight? And I was like, he's like, I work with King of the Cage. I was like, actually, I do. And he goes, fine. He's like, I'll get you a fight. It's going to pay like $300 a show, $200 to win. You're going to have to drive 11 hours to Cortez, but I'll get him a fight. So we get out there. I'm like, yeah, we'll do it. I mean, I spent more money on gas than we made on this fight, right? Like, we just drove out there. He wins the fight. And it's like the greatest moment of my life at that point, where I'm jumping up and down like we just won the World Series. We're at a high school gym, just so you know, okay? But I'm jumping up and down like we're at freaking, the Honda Center in Anaheim. Yeah. I'm so excited. I leave without getting him his check. Oh. We're at the after party. I totally forgot to get my guy's check. I felt so dumb. I was like, Oh. And the promoter came and he's like, hey, Rook, when your guy wins, come see me and get your check, okay? I was like, okay, I'm so sorry. And luckily, LeBron was super cool, you know what I mean? But like, it was embarrassing, you know what I mean? But I was just so like,
you were so in the moment.
What? Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, let's go eat pizza. Let's go have a beer.
That ever happen again?
No.
Yes.
Hey, he needed that experience so that didn't happen again.
But that was one of the most embarrassing moments, because it's in front of everyone at the party. Like Herb Dean was there. Everyone was at the after party. Everyone's like, oh.
Thank you. And they're probably all staring at you. Yeah. And you get like, like you get hot, like your face gets red, and you're just like, no.
What's going on?
Yeah.
But that's crazy, though, that you were just at your brother's baseball game and then you turned and the guy's like, hey.
I literally thought it was a dream. I was like, oh, man, this is starting to go my way, like.
And then how long after you talked to him did that fight happen? Was it like right away?
Oh, it was like 2 weeks.
Wow.
Like, it was close. Like, hey, I was like, his heavyweight on the cut weight. Like, yeah, we'll go. We'll do it. Like, I just needed to show someone I could book a fight, right? Like, you just need to show something, Like,
yeah.
I got you a fight. It's horrible pay.
But I got you one.
And it was one of the funnest trips. Like, I can remember every moment of that. We were just laughing the whole time, having a good time. And I was like, man, this is so cool.
Just bonding together.
I think my commission that fight was like $50.
Yeah.
Okay.
But you still had fun.
No, you know what I mean? At least you knew, like, at that moment. Because you know what it is? When you're in law school, I think this happens to a lot of people. Like, I remember, like, I'm in my 7th year of school. Ken came the last semester of law school. So I'm like, I'm 7 years of school. I didn't really like the private sector. I worked for a construction defect firm. And it was like, basically, we were punking the homeowners, right? Like, yeah, we're not going to pay for that. We're just going to give you this much and take it or leave it. And you feel kind of bad, right? Then I was in the DA's office, and then Schwarzenegger passed that bill to cut 10% of the workforce. Like, we can't even hire you for a year. So in your head, you're like, dude, 7 years of school, I'm going to walk out of this with nothing. And then here comes Ken just walking into school. And you're like, oh. Wow. So it all kind of happened. Like, Ken coming, the LeBron, all that stuff happened like in a 4 month. Everything was 100 miles an hour. It was just going.
Wow. So did he come in directly for you?
No, like, they brought him in just to speak. Because they bring in these, like, different, what my law school was trying to do was show you different things that you could do with your degree. So it wasn't always so cookie cutter, law practice. He probably didn't resonate with 99.9% of the people there, but he resonated with me. You know what I mean? Like, I remember, like, emailing the dean, like, hey, man, I know, like, no one was there, but I just want to thank you. Like, this is the greatest day of my law school career right now.
Yeah. I know, like, how much does a lawyer affect being an agent? Because I know, like, with Paradigm Sports, like, Audie's a lawyer as well. Like, do you think becoming a lawyer is helpful at all?
I definitely think it does help, especially because, like, Audie and I were such early adopters in this business. It's still the wild, wild west, right? Like, everything's new. The contracts are new. Everything's happening kind of for the first go. The sport's only 30 years old. Like, can you imagine we're or football and baseball wasn't 30 years in.
Yeah.
I mean, they still had winter jobs, at that point, So it's just a lot going on. So I definitely think it helps. I don't think it's absolutely necessary, but I definitely think it gives you, a better understanding of what you're looking at.
For sure. We actually, before we even started, we kind of talked a little bit about what it was like running some of these fighters during COVID. But we should try to talk about it while they're here. So how hard was it managing these fighters during COVID? Because obviously they had all these regulations where 2 coaches in the cage, no fans or nothing. And
testing.
To be honest, that 3-4 week period of COVID when there was no fights was probably one of the hardest times in my career, because every day you're getting a phone call of some guy that is like for example, Chito Vera is one of my best friends. Chito's nilly willy. His whole life, he just flies by the seat of his pants, and it always works out for this kid. Okay? I literally admire. I wish I could be as loose goose as this kid is. Okay, he's like, I'm gonna buy this house. He goes and buys this house. I'm like, Chito, that's let's wait till after the fight. He's like, no, I'm gonna buy it now. It's the one I want. He buys it, and then he was supposed to fight, I think, March 29th. Well, the world shut down March 6th. So he's like, oh crap, he's got to make mortgage payments. You know what I mean? All these things were happening. So it was that's one scenario of 100 guys that are calling you my daughter's private school or this or that, and everything that was going on. It was just so stressful. And I'll never forget, Dana called one day and he just said, hey man, is everything good? I just want to check in on you and your guys. If anyone needs anything, you let me know. I remember saying, hey man, I got a couple guys that could really use some help right now. And man, he had it there in 24 hours.
Wow.
And I'll never forget that. I was like, if you needed a lifeline, it was then. Then the world got back going, and to get to where you were saying, that was nuts. I feel like my whole life was 100 miles an hour. From the minute it hit jump, it was just crazy, right? Because we were at an Airbnb in Las Vegas. It was a 3-story Airbnb. So we were bringing guys in, getting their medicals done, and just having them train and sit in my house. And literally, when someone would test positive, you'd get, so say they fly in Tuesday, right? Immediately test. He's positive. That guy needs an opponent. And I'm like, hey, Sean, I got this guy in my house. He's 152 right now. He can make 145 Friday. He'll do it right now. And you're like, okay. And it opened up. I hope the UFC does a documentary on what COVID did to certain fighters. Julian Erosa is one, I think, was the golden winner of all of COVID. He was on The Ultimate Fighter, didn't make it. Got on Contender Series, didn't get a contract. Had 2 UFC stints and got cut twice. So he's had 4 opportunities in the UFC. When we moved to Vegas, he's the first guy that wants to meet with me. And I didn't want to meet with him because I'm like, what am I going to say to you? PFL isn't going on. Bellator isn't going on. You've had 4 runs in the UFC. This ain't happening, man. And he's like, well, listen, Jay, I'm riding my bike 20 miles to and from the gym every day. I'm training twice a day. I make weight every Friday just to keep myself focused. If anything comes up, who knows, maybe it works out. I remember going in the car and I wanted to cry. I was like, God, man, what am I going to do? How am I get this guy some work? Sure shit, 2 weeks later, 3 guys fall off. So they called one guy, positive. They called the next guy, positive. They called the 3rd guy, he can't make weight. And I remember I go to Sean, I said, Sean, this is going to sound crazy, but Julian Erosa is in town with his medicals done and he'll make weight. He was like, put him in. And Julian goes out and has the fight of his freaking life, right? He literally, there's a point in the fight, he literally says, you're going to have to kill me to get me out of here. He's that in that moment. He wins this fight. He's on his, 6th, 7th, 8th UFC fight since then, on his 3rd contract. It changed his whole life, into my mind, if that doesn't tell you about how, his mind kept him in this whole thing, because I was, scared. I was like, dude, where am I going to put him to make money?
Yeah,
for sure. What a burn moment for him.
That is actually spot on. Yes, that was his moment. And I remember thinking he never lost the faith. And when it's kind of doing I remember hey Jay, no worries. I know you're gonna figure it out. And in my head, I'm like, you do? Because I know. You know what I mean?
I have no idea.
I got you. Something will come up. Something. And he was just so, and I see him now. Him and his wife. They're doing so well. But let's take it one step further. He actually sold his home in Summerlin to get an apartment during COVID to save the money to I'm talking he was downsizing. He used to joke around that he was Vegas's #1 Uber driver. He was doing all these things.
Wow.
Keeping the faith. You know what I mean? And now I'm just bro, I love you, bro. You're such an inspiration to me. And every time he fights, he's just having the time of his life. He's just enjoying it and being in the moment. And so, but there's a lot of story. Get back to the point. There's a lot of stories of COVID like that people don't understand. Like when Brandon fought for the title for the first time, his opponent or his corner had a family emergency. He calls me and he goes, "Hey, dude, I want you to be in my corner." I was like, "Oh shit, okay, cool." They locked me in that room for 24 hours because I had to wait for the test. So I was in there for 24 hours just thinking about this fight, like, oh, please, God, could this be the time I get a champion? Like, this would be my 4th UFC title shot. Like, please, God, let this be it.
Yeah.
And you're just sitting there. But Brandon didn't get to see some of his team because everyone, you know what I'm saying? Like, it sounds small, but can you think about that? Like, you don't have, like, you're all separated. You're all in isolation. You all have to make sure you're not testing positive. It was just so weird, you know? Like, it's crazy. But, yeah, there's so many stories of guys like that have come back. Daniel Pineda was another one. He got another shot in the UFC, and he's still in now, you know? There's so many guys I think that really made the most. And I truly believe, I always say this, in this sport, it's not who's good, it's who's left. It's who can stand the most crap this sport brings and stay until. You look at like Dustin Poirier, Charles Oliveira, Glover Teixeira, Brandon, right? Those guys aren't the best athletes, but those guys just hung in there long enough. Michael Bisping, and they have their moment in their sun, right? Like they just keep going, and eventually they'll get their due. And I just truly believe that COVID really showed those kids that were really in this, that were really gonna stay in for the long haul and make the most of it, you know?
For sure. Overall, during COVID, what was your burning moment that brought peace to you? Because you said it was the most stressful time, but there had to have been something that brought peace.
It was like we were putting in a lot of, like I think we started COVID with like 60 athletes in the UFC. I think we walked out of it with like 90.
Wow.
And it was just nonstop, but I was given such peace. Like the ROSA thing, bro, I could have died and gone to heaven that night. Like I could have been good. You know what I mean? Like if that was it for me, like I'd have been happy for him. You know what I mean? Like it was like just to see everyone kind of, you know, make money and get back on their feet, you know, and to be honest, it was scary too. I'm still cutting checks, you know what I mean? Not knowing if there's going to be fights. And so just, you know, what Dana and the UFC did, I just think was amazing. And what people don't realize too, a lot of the fans that were football, basketball, baseball fans, when UFC got on first and they were the first thing back on television, it's like they were forced to watch us and give us a fair shake. Does that make sense? I'm not saying they weren't, but they, you know, I mean, they were like,
the only thing on at that time.
It's either that or that, what were they doing, the hacky sack, whatever, there was like all those on there, you know what I mean? Like, and so, but yeah, I remember just in Vegas, there was a point I was laying in bed with my wife one day, she's like, wow, this is crazy. Like we were living in California, not knowing what was happening 4 weeks ago. Now we're living in Las Vegas. Got 6 guys in this house. It's like a dorm. You know what I mean? We're just running and gunning. Yeah. You know, and a lot of guys came out winners in COVID, and I'm happy for them. I really am.
COVID was a big burn moment for a lot of people.
Yeah, it was. It was.
But all right, it's time to move on to the next letter, N. And it's kind of 2 parts. It's now and next. Yeah. So are there any burn moments you're going through right now, or any burn moments that you see in the foreseeable future?
Well, that's a real good question. Real good question. I think right now, really, for our agency, it's like when you achieve some great things, you have to see if you can do it every year consistently. I remember Saif Saud, Brandon's coach, he came up to me like in 2019. He goes, "Yo, Jay, you're having a good year." And I said, "Oh, thanks, coach. I appreciate that." And I was like, good to hear him say that. And he goes, "But let me tell you something. If you want to be great, man, you got to run a decade." And I was like, what? He's like, you got to run a decade of this. You got to be so damn good for like a John Wooden or a Dan Gable or Carol Sanderson. So I think the next adversity ahead is just maintaining excellence for such a long clip, right? And to do that, you have to be process oriented. It's hard not to get caught up in results. I think that's one of the hard parts of success. You're like, okay, I got 100 guys in, now I got 105 in, now I have 1 champion, now maybe I'll get 2 champions. And these are all results. I had to go back to the 24-year-old Jason that was just helping fighters in the process, right? Like if you stay in the process and you just stay in it, I think that's the key to our success, right? And every level has new adversity, right? Like developing my team internally, right? Like motivating them and educating them and constantly giving them the right things so they're growing, so they're constantly evolving because the sport's ever changing. Every 5 minutes the sport's changing and we have to keep going. So I think for us right now, it's really about creating our legacy and leaving it behind, you know? My dad used to say, you could know a lot about a man at his funeral. And I truly believe, like, you know, my goal is, when I die someday, I hope there's a long list of people there that I was a small impact in their life in one way or another, you know? And I think that's the goal. You know, I think what you're doing here is amazing. You know, you're going to inspire a lot of people. I think what you're doing in the hospitals is freaking awesome, because I think serving and giving is everything in this world. And the fact that you're giving back, and, you know, who knows the mentality you're going to change and how many lives you're going to affect just by putting, you know, and isn't that awesome? It's so, you know, I'll tell you a quick story. Like I think it was like, was it December? We had a horrible night. We were like 0-5. And I was throwing a fit. I was so mad. My wife looked at me and she goes, dude, 5 years ago, you didn't even have 5 guys in the UFC. You got 5 in one night. Like, but it was like that perspective, you know what I mean? And it's like a little something like putting can change it. It's everything's, it's all here. It's all perspective.
So your wife is obviously why you're still here today and doing it. So how important is she to you in your life?
I think I remember, I'll never forget this. We took a short notice fight with Chito in March in London, and he knocked out Brad Pickett, and I was over the moon. We needed that money so bad to help Chito's daughter get the surgery and keep moving forward. And Casey Hallstad looked at me and he goes, hey man, you found a real good girl, but let me tell you something. When you marry her, it's going to be like rocket fuel for you. She's going to make you so much better. You have no idea how good you're going to be when you really get going with this. And I remember thinking, like, not that I didn't believe him, because Casey's always been like, but like, you don't know until you're in it, right? You're just kind of like, okay, cool, coach. Like, you know what I mean? Because maybe it's like, that's not going to settle in now, but in a couple months, I'm going to call you, coach. That's going to make a whole lot of sense, you know? But honestly, I felt like she was amazing for me, because I was always playing with something to lose. That was one of my faults. Like, when I was at the UFC, I was always like so uptight, so stringent, because in my mind, I'm like, I got someone's dream in my hand. I have to deliver this. If Sean and Mick don't like me, I'm screwed. You know what I mean? And, you know, I'm the voice for someone else. And she was so loose goose and friendly. I feel like she did a good job like humanizing me, and she was always there to support me on the road. And kind of like, I remember one time I was in Scotland and my guy lost, and I wanted to go to my room and just be a loser. And she called me and said, you need to go downstairs and get to work. And I was like, nah, I don't want to. I'm done. Fuck this. You know what I mean? Like, you know. And I go down there, and sure shit, Sean's there. He goes, hey man, you got this person for Contender Series? I need an opponent. And I put this kid in Contender Series and changed his life. And in my head, I thought, I had to text my wife, you know, you're right. I'm wrong, you know what I mean? Like, damn. Like, I owe you a prize, you know. But I think she does a good job managing the manager. And she does a good job of helping me to stay present, because there's so much you're always looking. I think ambition is good, but it can also be harmful at times, right? You're always looking for the next, like a Viking, you're looking for the next land to conquer. You're looking for the next thing to do. And sometimes you just have to stop and smell the roses and enjoy the ride. And she helps me to constantly do that, you know? Yeah. You know, because it's hard as an agent. Like, you know, if I was representing you guys and you guys have success, I have to go find how do I capitalize on this success that you're having, right? How do I, capitalize on this heat you're bringing in? You know what I mean? I got to make this work, you know? And so it's kind of that counterbalance of being present, but also always thinking 1 or 2 steps ahead.
Yeah, sure. It's all about enjoying the process. I love how you say that. My dad always says it. Trust the process, and everything will work out.
My coach in college, he literally changed my life, man. He was such a good man, and he used to always say, like, he'd say the same thing, like, trust the process, but he'd always say, like, Jason, what's 2 Corinthians 5:7? I was the first, like, I don't know, coach. He's like, it's walk by faith, not by sight. Just trust the process. Oh, wow. It'll come. And I'm like, coach, I'm 18, man. You're going way too deep for me right now. But yeah, he really always said, it's focus on the process, not the results. And it really helped me. Because in baseball, I was one of those guys, like, if I got a hit in the first at-bat, the rest of the game I was money. But if I had a bad first at-bat, you could pretty much damn near pull me out of the game, because I was going to be in my head, pissed off. You know? But he changed that. He's like, dude, just focus on the process. Don't worry about the results. It's going to come out.
I need to take that to my golf game. Because if I have a bad first hole, it's just like a battle to get
Coach
it back
Mark
together.
at Factory X and Dustin Jacoby, they begged me, like, bro, get on the golf course with us. Come on. But I am so nervous because of exactly what you just said. I know if the first hole goes bad, the next 17, I'm going to be useless. No. You know what I mean? I'm going to be like,
you just got to go out there and have fun. Who cares if people
I need to. It's kind of like you say. It's like hole by hole, like day by day. Like, you just got to focus in the present.
Yeah.
And that's what, I'm trying to do now.
I love golf for that reason. I think people that play golf, you have to be so mentally tough. And it's something that you don't see, though, right? Like, the common person doesn't understand how hard it is to play golf. Like, and I just have so much respect for those athletes, because the pressure cooker between the ears there is unreal.
Yeah. And it's so long. You're out there 4 or 5 hours even sometimes. I mean, some of our tournaments are 6 hours, and you're just like trying to stay focused. But I think it helps out a lot in life. Golf
the mental endurance it must give you guys, it has to be insane.
Yeah.
Like I remember I was watching, I don't know, a couple weeks or whenever Tiger was competing, but like he was kind of struggling physically, right? Like walking, and you start thinking like, dude, 4 or 5 hours in the sun, cooking out there, walking everywhere, keeping the mental focus. I mean, it's tough.
Yeah.
It's hard to focus on one TV show, let alone go freaking play golf for 4 or 5 hours. You know, like
literally, you gotta be super mentally locked in, especially while it's a tournament. Oh my gosh, because you have to be locked in on every shot. Then you have to carry your bag up these hills. And
how do you guys let go of like if you have a bad hole, like
gosh, I don't know. I don't do a very good job, but I worked with a mental coach for a while, and she always like told me like pick out something, whether it's a tree, whether it's a steak or whatever, and as soon as you walk past that, it's gone. Like it's completely gone. Try do your best to like get rid of it. And I mean, I carry that into almost everything in life. If I bad test score, if I don't do well on a podcast, it's like if I walk through that door, like it's over. And it's hard. I will say it's super hard. Another thing she told me is that your mind never hears can't or don't. So like if you're looking at a tee shot and you're like, okay, you can't go left, there's water. Your brain just hears left. And so she really was training me to be like, okay, fairway, I'm gonna hit the fairway. Green, I'm gonna hit the green. Putt, I'm gonna hit the putt. Like don't use don't and don't use can't.
It's funny you said, because I always try to control the language on fight week. Hey man, you can't get caught drifting to the left side. He's gonna hit you with the right hand. You can't say that. You can't. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that's gonna program it
into
in
the
their
brain.
head.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was funny. Our coach in college, he worked with Ken Revisa, who was like a real big sports psychologist in baseball, Cal State Fullerton, and he used to have like this little toilet in the dugout, and he would say, "Hey, just flush it down the toilet. Just flush the bat at bat down the toilet," you know. And I'd be like, "It sounds so easy, but it's not." Like,
it is not easy.
It sounds easy, but it's
not.
No, it's bad. Especially what you said. If you hit your first tee shot out of bounds, you're just like, yeah. I'm in for a full one.
We'll have to go golf sometimes, and you guys can do it. You know,
we'll do it. Yeah,
I can hit it a mile, but I don't know where it's going. You know what I mean?
We'll give you some lessons. He's more the teacher. He's actually a great teacher.
See, Mark and Dustin, like they're really good. Like they're super. I think Dustin Jacoby is one of the best pure athletes. Like played quarterback in college, professional UFC fighter. Like I think he's like his handicap is like very low. Like he's he's really good. Like I think if he really focused on it, he probably could. But I'm like, I don't want to go out. You know what I mean? Like
we'll have to get him out, and all 4 of us will go, and we'll do a little team match.
He just fought literally a week ago, so he can go golf.
Yeah, and he's someone you guys should really talk to. His mindset is so.
Yeah,
I mean, he's nothing gets in between the ears with him. He controls his temperature the whole time. He's so good at it. So good at it.
Especially because fighting's so mental as it is already. That's what I love. It's like golf and fighting, mental. And it's you.
When you guys watch the fights today, try and see like who relaxes first and if that person wins. Because I always try to see it. I always feel like the guy that relaxes first wins.
Okay.
The guy that can relax mentally and start implementing his game plan, and kind of like golf, right? You can start hitting his shots, start getting in the groove. You know what I mean? Like,
okay, we'll have to look for that.
Yeah, we'll watch that. After you say that, I'm gonna watch every fight and just be like looking. Like,
look for the guy that, like Bobby. Like, I love watching Bobby Green. Like,
He's
literally,
so
if he said you could watch one guy, I'd be like, I'd watch Bobby Green all day, because he is so good at just like, oh, it's time to go to work. Let me flip the switch. And he goes out there and he's dancing and he's just so in the moment, having a good time. He's like, what are you doing?
Put your hands up. Like, no, he does that. It's crazy to watch. Like every fighter's so different in there, whether they're super tense or they're super calm. But like you say, the most relaxed ones are the ones who always have the most success.
I think the ones that have a clear head in there are the ones that do really well. Because it's crazy. Some guys are super happy. Some guys are super focused. Everyone's different. You know, it's really crazy. You know what you guys should do? We should try to get you to corner sometime, and you guys can see backstage, and then you'll see.
That's what.
Like I wear the whoop, and like I'll register a workout like a 13.1, and I'm like, I was just backstage, you know, like. But you know, we have to work on that to get you guys.
Yeah, for sure.
I love to see you guys, and you guys can make the walk and see how nervous it is to walk out with the fight. It's cool.
We always talk about like, what is that feeling like when you're sitting there getting your hands wrapped? Like, what's that feeling like? I mean, 2-3 hours before you get there.
We're going to have to make that happen.
We'll have to do that.
We went to dinner with this really nice man that was sponsoring Zach Cummings for years. He always supported Zach, and he was like, man, I'm so excited I'm in the corner tomorrow. But, you know, I've sat front row before. I don't think it's any different. And I said, sir, let me tell you something. When you walk out and that crowd goes berserk tomorrow night, you're going to feel like your heart's coming out of your chest. He's like, really? I'm like, trust me, when you're cornering, it's a whole different like level of sure shit. Zach has this great fight, wins. He sees me at the hotel after, and the guy goes up to me and goes, I literally was sweating so much through my shirt. He was like so nervous. Like, he's like, and I've been to all of Zach's fights. I'm like, I don't know why it was so different. I'm like, I don't know why either, but I'm just telling you, when you're in that corner, like everything's just going 100 miles an hour. Like,
because everyone's screaming, dog, slip. And it's
it's like you're like riding past in a NASCAR race. You're just like, everything, just, you know.
No, we'll have to do that. I would love that.
We'll have to do this. We'll have to make this happen.
Yes.
I'll have to think of a few clients that could work out for, and you guys can just get the full experience of being backstage and the warm
that would
up.
be so cool.
You know what I mean? It'll be a shot of life for you guys, because I mean, I always tell myself the day it doesn't hit me is the day I need to walk away. Right? It should mean that much. If things you care about, if you're doing it, it should be like,
yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. It means you care.
Yeah, you know what I mean. And I always feel like sometimes I see people after the fight like, well, you didn't even care. Like, why were you in?
Yeah.
It should mean that much. You know?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a big deal. But yeah, we have. I want to make that happen.
That'd be awesome. Thank you so much for
Yeah.
even giving us this opportunity, and thank you for hooking us
No,
up.
thank you for
fights.
sharing your story, and
Yeah.
that's so motivating. Hearing what, like how you're giving back like that, I think that's just so awesome.
Thank you. Yeah,
Thank you.
appreciate it.
All
And
right, well,
one thing.
you got one more?
We'll all have to wear a whoop whenever we go corner.
A whoop? Oh,
Yes,
I have an Oura ring.
Okay, same thing. Yeah,
Same thing.
Yeah. So
And I'll track it.
I'm gonna see
We'll have
your.
to
I'm gonna
track
see
it.
your score. You're like,
Yeah, because actually at home, so we have like a cold plunge, and me and my dad do it every single day, and I love
how many
wearing it.
minutes a day do you do it?
I do 2. That's it.
Okay.
I only do 2.
How cold do you have the water?
Gosh, I don't 33 maybe.
Okay.
Maybe between 33 and 36. I don't really know. It kind of fluctuates.
Okay.
But it's
how long
cold.
you go?
1 minute and I'm done.
He jumps and he's like, "Ugh."
I'm a huge believer in the cold plunge.
I love
Huge.
it.
Okay.
I've been doing my
love
blood
it.
work every 3 months, and I'm just seeing my numbers improving.
Really?
And I'm just doing 25-minute sauna, 3-minute cold plunge every day religiously. I do it, and I truly believe it's a game changer.
do you do the sauna first and then the cold plunge, or is it the cold plunge? And then
Great
sauna?
question. So me and Chito are always debating this, going back and forth on this. So like, I feel like if it's at night, you should end on the sauna because it helps you go to sleep. If I do the cold plunge at night, I'm like, hey, let's watch another show. Wake up.
Yeah,
like, you know, and
you're up.
she's like, yeah. So I think it depends on where you're at in the day. Like in the morning, I would end on the cold.
Okay.
It also kind of depends on what you're trying to do too. Like for me, like I'm always weight managing. So ending on the cold, like you burn so many calories with your body trying to heat itself back up, right? So I kind of let myself, I let myself kind of do that, and that really helps burn a ton of calories. But yeah, I always track my whoop. That's cool.
It's
do
like
that.
drop like from like 90 to like 60.
And you think it helps your
love
golf, your recovery?
Oh yeah, like I used to, for like the last 2 years, I've really been battling like back stuff.
Yeah.
And I, knock on wood, I haven't had really any back stuff in the last, since I've been doing it. And it's crazy the mental clarity I get. Like I feel like I'm on it as soon as I get out.
I love it.
And then like when I come on a trip like here, it's like I kind of feel like sluggish. Like I can't get going, but I love it. It honestly is like
next time you're in town, you have to come over. We'll have to jump in the plunge and hang out and
We'll
stuff.
do it.
Yeah,
we'll
let's do it.
Yeah,
I need to start doing the sauna. I don't do the sauna as much. We have a sauna, but I don't know. I usually just work out, come home, and jump in
you
it.
should really try it. Really, honestly, it's really, really good. I really feel a big difference in doing it. I feel more limber. My body feels good getting in there every day.
Yeah, we'll have to do it. We'll have to drag him in there. I try to drag him all the time.
We're gonna have to get you to 2 minutes, man. We're gonna have to get you going.
I'll do it.
He's got to get his hands in first. He sits with his hands out.
Yeah,
I submerge everything.
We love when people come over. I always try to set the timer who can go in the lock. It's like a fun game with us with all the fighters. Like we try to like make them, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's cool.
I'll have to do 2 minutes whenever I'm with him because he'll help me mentally.
Yeah.
Because I'm gonna want to get out after 1 minute. But
well, you know, I always feel like the first 30 seconds is like the hardest, and after that, it's like I think I can keep going. You know,
Yeah.
obviously it's probably smart to do that, but I mean, like I feel like once you get kind of. You know, my wife, she always like tiptoes in. I'm like, that's the worst. If you're just,
I know, that's what my mom does.
You have to like,
just like slowly.
That's worse. You just have to like,
just
gotta go in.
jump in. I'm telling you, the hardest part for me, I literally just think, just sit down. And as soon as I'm sitting down, I'm good. I close my eyes, I lean back, and you just got to take your mind to a clear space.
Yeah, Chito got me into it. He got a Morosco Forge one, and
that's the one we have.
Yeah, we have the same one. Yeah, and he was he's like, I probably get you one. I was like, okay, let's do this. You know?
It's cool. It filters itself, and it's awesome.
Yeah, there's not much like work into it. It's so easy, you know.
Yeah, I don't think we really do. I mean, we'll drain it maybe once every 2 months.
Yeah.
But
How long did your dad go for?
He does 2 minutes too.
Nice.
We both do 2 minutes.
Nice.
You're making me want to do 3 now. Damn it. When I go home,
Listen,
I'll be like, damn, Jason does 3.
I listen to Huberman a lot. Dr. Huberman has a podcast, and he was kind of just saying, like, if you did, I think it was like 80 minutes a week in the sauna, and then I know it was 11 minutes in the cold plunge a week, like you decrease your mortality rate by like 60% or something. It's some crazy number like this
I've heard that.
in older males. And so I just try to break it up like that. You know what I mean? So if I say I'm going to do it 4 times a week, 5 times a week, okay, that's 12 minutes. Like that's enough. Good.
And it's crazy about all the health benefits with doing
Yeah.
it. Like helps release white blood cells, right?
Yeah, it does a lot of stuff. I've seen all kinds of videos on it. It even reduces your heart rate by like 20 beats less per minute.
How often do you guys play golf? Like how active?
Every day.
Every day?
Every day.
18 holes every day?
No, it depends. So like we'll go out and we'll practice, and that'll be like 4 hours. 18 holes is like 4 hours. Sometimes we'll go practice for like 2, go play 18. So it kind of depends, but we're for sure out there a good 4 or 5 hours every day.
It's commitment.
It's grueling.
Right.
Yeah.
Golf is one of those things. It's like you have to though. Like if you take 1 day off, it always says it takes 2 to make it back up.
I feel like golf is like so much like fighting like a jealous girlfriend. If you don't keep your eyes on her, she's gonna burn you 8 ways sideways. You know what I mean? Like you got to really like.
I know.
It can be no other thing in your life. Like if you're gonna play golf, it has to be golf 24/7. If you're gonna be a fighter, you're a fighter 24/7. It cannot be like when it's convenient.
You can't pay like halfway in.
Yeah.
Say.
Yeah.
Can be halfway in, halfway out.
But it's fun. I enjoy it a lot.
That's awesome.
But
Cool.
all right, Jason. Well, you just spelled burning your life. Thank you so much for coming on. Maybe tell the audience how they can find you, your social media platforms, your website, whatever.
Awesome. Yeah. Our company website is iridiumsportsagency.com, and my social media handles are Jason K. House.
You heard the man. Go give him some love. And as a gift for coming on the podcast, you will be getting the Black Label Edition
yes.
Burn Factory hoodie.
Thank you.
And hat.
Yes, sir.
And
Awesome.
only guests get those.
Oh,
Only
yeah.
guests.
So special, special.
I feel good.
You got to go to
one.
all your fighters and wear it and be like, you
Tell
want one of
Brandon,
these too.
I got one too, Brandon. What's up? What's up?
What's up? But
For sure. And always please visit my foundation, the priestjamesfoundation.org. Again, the priestjamesfoundation.org, to understand why we call this the Burn Factory.
see you guys for the next episode. Peace.
Jason House just felt burn in his life. What an incredible story. And he is now the Burn Factory champion. And as a champ, you got to call out someone to come on the Burn Factory. Who you calling out?
I'm going to call out Raul Rosas to come out and be on the
Raul
Burn Factory.
Rosas. Come
Let's
on,
go.
come on the Burn Factory. It's about burning your life. Let's go.